My wife is not fond of this passage at all. She likes the idea that when we are both dead, that we will be married in heaven. And she has said that, and I've looked at her and said, "You are badly mistaken." And I know that's an uncomfortable thought. I mean, many of us would like to think that relationships are the same in the heavenly realm as they are in the earthly realm. And I'm sorry to break you the bad news, but they're not. Jesus is quite clear. It will be like the angels. There is no giving or the taking in marriage there. It's not necessary, because marriage is an estate for the temporal realm. It is an estate for the here and now, not for eternity. That's one reason why we say at the end of the vows, to have and to hold from this time forward until death parts us. And that's not put in so that you can't claim another exemption on your IRS form just because you're a widow. Augustine said rightly, "Lord, you have made us for thyself, and we are restless until we rest in thee." Blaise Pascal, many centuries later, said that each of us is created with a God-shaped void in our being, a hole in our being, that can only be filled by God, and only perfectly filled by God. The problem is, so long as it is not filled by God and filled perfectly by God, we have emptiness. And it cannot be perfectly filled by God until the last day, when all things are revealed and God is all in all, and we are transformed from glory unto glory. So in the meantime, because we cannot be perfectly filled by God, not because of any problem with God, but because of a problem with us, we would be in a state of dis-ease. Not at ease, a discomfiture, even painful. But God in His mercy gives us things to fill the void, sort of like packing for an abscess. He gives us work, He gives us food, He gives us family. Marriage was created as a temporary estate for the human creature to fill the void of the divine being. Because once you're in the presence of the divine being, you don't need the packing anymore. Some things, as a matter of fact, many things which we love and which we cherish are temporary blessings. They're blessings only for this life, not blessings for eternity. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's an act of grace and generosity and love and compassion on the part of God that He would give us these temporal blessings. As I said, family, house, home, work, all temporal. They will all fade away and be unnecessary in the eternal realm. Good food. I love good food, but it's a temporal blessing. Although I sort of suspect that there is pork and sauerkraut in heaven. At the wedding feast of the Lamb. Yes, absolutely. Entertainment, recreation, all those things. Temporal. But not music. Music is not a temporal blessing. Music is an eternal blessing. Now, I may be wrong about this, but I don't think so. See, all of Scriptures attests to the perpetual singing of the heavenly host. Look at the book of Revelation. What do we have after we get through the warnings to the churches? We have the revelation given to John that he sees the four living creatures. And what are they doing? They are singing before the throne of God. And then he sees the 24 elders. And what are they doing? They are singing before the throne of God. Then he sees all the myriad of heavenly hosts, myriads upon myriads, all of them singing the praise of God. And then he sees all of creation, everything that draws breath, not just human beings, but all living things, and even things we might not call living, singing the praise of God. And they sing, "Worthy is Christ, the Lamb who was slain." Blessing, honor, glory, and might be to God and the Lamb forever. An eternal song, a heavenly song, a song that never dies, does not come to an end with the end of the age, but is rather the song of the new age that even penetrates into the present age. Boethius. Did Frank mention Boethius by any chance? He did not. I'm going to have to reprimand him for that. Boethius wrote a marvelous treatise way back about the movement of the astral bodies. And it was referred to as the music of the spheres. That the very structure of the cosmos, this object orbiting here and that object orbiting there, are all arranged in sets of concentric spheres, that as they flew through the heavens, their very flight was song, for it set all of creation a-vibrating, so that everything that exists is resonating with the creative and preserving power of the Almighty. It all sings. Indeed, I can talk about the movement of the astral bodies, but I could talk about the movement of electrons around the nucleus of the atom, and what do you think they're doing down there as they flit about, but singing the praise of God? And now the latest stuff in cosmology, which I don't pretend, I was pretty good for a long time until they got to this string theory thing, and now I'm a little baffled. But what I have gathered from it, as they describe it, is that these strings that everything is made up of are vibrating wildly, and I would suggest passionately, vibrating in their own praise of God. And from their singing, all creation exists and is sustained. Now, singing plays a very useful, practical thing in the life of the church. Singing has tremendous advantages when it comes to the church's worship. Number one, singing can be traveling music. It's what masks other things that are going on. For instance, we sing, "Hallelujah, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal light," or whatever the Lenten verse is. What do you think that's there for? That's to get me from there to there. In the old day, they used to call it the gradual. And it wasn't gradual because it was slow. It was from the word grados, which was step. You had to go up the steps to get into the pulpit. So the gradual was the music for the priest to climb up the steps, or for the deacon to climb up the steps. Perfectly practical. What a wonderful use. I mean, it'd be a little boring to just watch me go without anything to do. And this is why part of me sat there as I was waiting for Katie to come up and read. I said, yeah, we haven't quite figured this out. We've forgotten how useful this is. During the singing of the Dignus Est, "Worthy is Christ, the Lamb who was slain," that would have been a perfect time to come to sauntering up there. And then as soon as I had the prayer of the day, you could have started reading right away. No time lost. People talk about the service being too long. Preacher goes on forever. Well, shoot, if we could shave a couple minutes here and there, we just use our music more effectively. Or God forbid we have communion, that'll really make it too long. And same thing while the song. Well, I could have snuck up there while the song was going on and used the music as cover for other things. Why do you think we have music when we take up the altar? Why do you think we sing the Agnus Dei in the old days? It was so we could commune all the priests and assistants before they commune the people. Sing Lamb of God while things are happening at the altar. Wonderfully practical stuff. Another very practical function of music in the church historically was just so that the word could be heard. See, And I hate amplification systems. They seem unnatural to me. I'm just not fond of them. It just doesn't work for me. I'll openly admit it. It sort of bugs me. It also annoys me because it slows things down, because I'm forever going up here saying, okay, is the darn thing on yet or not? And I'm always terrified I'll have an Obama or Bush moment and forget to turn it off. And then say something I'm embarrassed about. Like what I say to the acolyte, no, get a little, that's not much. Just the mechanics of singing allows us to project more. I can do a lot more with my voice singing and fill a room than I can speaking and fill a room. It's always the problem, because I chant so much. I'm always trying to flip the darn thing off, because if I sang full voice, which is what I normally do, I'd blow you all out of the room. You'd think you were at a Spinal Tap concert and this speaker had been turned up to 11.
Nobody knows who Spinal Tap is here.
There's also a point at which singing brings with it cadence and structure. The lessons can be chanted. This past Good Friday here, we had the reading of the Gospel of John. That's a long reading for the Passion of Christ. That's a chapter and a half. And John's long-winded anyway. His chapters are enormous. We chanted it. Used 3 different cantors: a narrator chanting from the pulpit, someone being Jesus in the back, someone else being in all the other parts under the sun. And the chanting sort of makes it easier to listen to. It carries better. You can sometimes do more with the cadence to get the flow of what's actually happening. Now in the Amish communities, the sermons are sung. Now that's something to hear. They've got their own sort of cant style that they do it. And the amazing thing is, half the time, most of them are extemporaneous. But they actually chant their sermons. Now, it's not like Gregorian chant. Amish chant is its own special phenomenon. But it has rhythm, and it has cadence, and it has dynamic and value, it has motive and energy. And part of singing, too, is the structures of repetition and how you fold back upon itself. And all that helps underline and score points on what's going on. If I change the way I sing, I can express different emotive states than I can if I just speak, right? Much more easily. Well, you know this from attending musicals, right? Musical theater. Why go to musical? Why not just go to a straight play without any singing? But sometimes in musical theater, with the music, you can accomplish so much more to communicate what you want to communicate. By changing the style, changing the voicing, changing the pace and tempo. There's also tremendous practical value in how music unites us in worship. We're big, we Lutherans are really big on the idea of saying that we have liberty, that we have Christian freedom. We have an entire article in the Formula of Concord on adiaphora, and spitting out the claim made in the Augsburg Confession that it is not necessary for the true unity of the Church. Notice this, it is not necessary for the true unity of the Church that human rites and rituals be observed in the same way by all people at all times. It is sufficient that the gospel be preached in purity and the sacraments administered according to it. You can double check to make sure I quoted it correctly. Just use the Tapper translation, not the Cole translation. I have to memorize that. It is not necessary for the true unity of the Church that we do it all the same way. The principle there for Lutherans is that, you know, if you like singing the German chorales, sing the German chorales. If you like singing the praise choruses, sing the praise choruses. If you like old-timey Gaither-style gospel music, sing Gaither-style gospel music. If you like Gregorian chant, do Gregorian chant. But you know what? It'd be really helpful if we were all actually doing the same thing at the same time in the same place. Because unless it's a Charles Ives worship service, those of you who know Charles Ives knows what that means, unless it's some weird hyper-modern thing where we want Kay singing one thing, and me singing something else, and you singing something, unless we're going for that really hyper-modern thing, it isn't going to help us very much. Singing together binds us together as a community. You know, we're the last vestige of that. The church, well, religious communities, the church, the synagogue, we are the last vestige of people who sing together. I'm sorry, Mitch Miller is long dead and cold in the grave, I'm afraid. But you remember those days? Oh, none of you are old enough to remember Mitch Miller. Mitch Miller would come out and he would have the whole crowd singing the Yellow Rose of Texas, and it was great. And he was in a long tradition going all the way back through the vaudeville eras, where in every vaudeville show there was always some woman who came out with an excessive hat and would lead the congregation, lead the audience in singing something. And that's what bound us together as a community. I remember as a child going to 4th of July observances and Memorial Day observances in my hometown. 4th of July, we would gather a full hour before sunset in the bleachers at the high school football stadium. Now, why do you think we were there waiting for the fireworks a full hour in advance? Because we were going to sing. There were ushers and they'd pass out song sheets and we would sing, "This is my country, land that I love." And we would sing, "Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, forever waves of grain." And we would sing, "I'm a Yankee Doodle Day." And she's a brand new flag, she's a... And we were bound together as a community because we sang together. They've all lost that. We do it here still, at least for a little while. I'm worried that we're going to lose that here too. I'm worried that we're going to lose our singing tradition as we move more and more toward music that highlights the soloist and not the community. But all those practical reasons, which are excellent reasons, do not approach the sublime beauty and dignity of the music of the spheres. Do not approach the sacred holy of the angelic song. When we sing in church, we do not sing alone. When we sing, "Worthy is Christ, the Lamb who was slain, whose blood takes away the sins of the world," we sing with the heavenly host. We are joined up in one glorious, glorious choir. It is not them over there and us here. The walls of time and space dissolve in the midst of our soul. We sing with Michael and Raphael and Uriel and Gabriel, the archangels. We sing with the seraphim or the incendiaries set ablaze by their proximity to the throne of God. We sing with the cherubim of sleepless eye. And we sing with Martin Luther and Philip Melanchthon, with Katie, with Bugenhagen and Chemnitz, Heffenrefer and Hofstadter. We sing with Samuel Simon Schmucker. We sing with Bob and Phyllis and Joan and Mary and all those we have loved and only think we've lost. Because all of creation is caught up in the song of the resurrection. We sing with earth and seas. We sing with rocks and trees. We sing with the stars of the heaven and the sun and moon. We sing with everything that has breath, and even those things that look like they don't. The song of faith and the song of praise is the eternal song. This is no mere play that we were at here. This is the holy play, the holy revel, the great delight of our God that we were about. can we not help but lift our voices? How can we help but not join the song? Well, we know. There's always those who say, well, I don't like the music in the church. I had one old fellow one time, he said, Pastor, I don't like all this music. You know, he goes, no, I wish we'd just come in here and didn't have any music at all, none of this chanting, none of this hymn singing. I just like it nice and quiet. I said, man, you're going to hate the resurrection. Can you imagine hating music only to die and be resurrected and find yourself a second tenor in the choir? Believe me, that's going to suck. To see this as participation in the kingdom of God. And if necessary, to use it as practice, to tune our voices to sing His praise. That's not a bad thing.